Have you ever stood in the quiet war between who you are and who you swore you'd become? That moment when the alarm goes off and you're wide awake, not just in your bed, but inside your soul. You know exactly what needs to be done. You feel it pounding in your chest like a forgotten vow. But then the whispers come. Just 5 more minutes. You've earned a break. It's fine, tomorrow's better anyway. And you listen, you slip. You let comfort seduce you back into the cage. And when the sun sets, the guilt returns like a shadow that never leaves. That silent frustration, the one no one else sees. That's not laziness. That's the cry of a warrior who keeps losing to himself. Discipline isn't some motivational buzzword. It's not fireworks. It's not loud. It's the quietest scream inside a man's chest when no one's clapping, no one's watching, and yet he still shows up. It's the unseen grind, the invisible war waged in every small decision. Scroll or study. Speak or stay silent. Run or face it. Pleasure now or purpose later. Stoicism calls this proheresis, your sacred power to choose, not the world's choice, not fate's decision, yours. And Epictetus didn't sugarcoat it. He carved it into stone with one brutal truth. No man is free who is not master of himself. Read that again. That means every excuse, every distraction, every delay is another chain you're locking on your own wrists. This world profits from your weakness. It feeds off your indecision. Your addiction to comfort is their cash cow. You think you lack motivation? No, you lack command. You lack the ruthless self-respect to keep a promise to yourself when nobody's looking. The internet is flooded with dreamers, motivated for 10 minutes, crushed by life for the other 23 hours. They worship inspiration but run from discipline. Because motivation feels good, discipline feels like war. But that war is where men are made. And if you're still here, still watching, then there's a fire in you they haven't killed yet. This isn't a checklist. This isn't some pretty guide to hack your habits. This is a mirror, a brutal, unfiltered reflection of the battles you fight in silence. You're going to feel this in your bones. Every point we hit will feel like it's about you, because it is. This is about the nights you lie awake knowing you're better than what you've been settling for. It's about the split seconds that rewrite entire destinies. It's about the tears no one sees when you feel like you've failed yourself again. It's about that sick feeling in your stomach when you realize your comfort is killing you slowly. Discipline is not about doing more. It's about becoming more. We're going to dig into the places most people avoid, into your patterns, your distractions, the dark corners of your mind where you hide your fears, your guilt, your regrets. Because that's where discipline is truly born. Not in noise, but in the silence of solitude, in the ache of discomfort, in the chaos you learn to command. Growth doesn't happen when it's easy. It happens when you hold your ground while everything in you screams to run. It happens when you stop trying to escape your pain and start using it as fuel. So, listen, don't blink, don't scroll, don't tell yourself you'll come back to this later. Later is a graveyard. Stay, feel this, let it sink its claws into your chest. Share this with someone who's walking that same lonely path through the fog. Subscribe to the channel, not for entertainment, but because you're ready to arm yourself. This video isn't content, it's a reminder, a weapon, a fist to the chest that says, you are not done. You've just forgotten what you're made of. And if you're ready to reclaim that edge, if you're ready to rise from the ashes of every broken promise and every wasted day, drop this in the comments like it's a battle cry. Discipline is my freedom. Now, let's get into it. Number 1. Discipline begins when comfort ends. Discipline doesn't knock politely. It kicks the door in when you're half asleep in your warm little bubble, whispering lies to yourself about how tomorrow you'll be better. You don't evolve in a padded room of soft habits. Growth isn't born in comfort. It's dragged out of the dirt by bloodied hands and a clenched jaw. Discipline doesn't arrive when the gym is empty and your playlist is perfect. It shows up when your legs are trembling, your brain is screaming, and you still choose to lift what feels impossible. That's where it begins, when it's dark, when your excuses are louder than your reasons, when everything in you begs for the easy way out, but something deeper, primal, unshakable, refuses to fold. The world is full of people who flirt with goals, but marry their comfort. They write resolutions, make promises, build dreams, and abandon every single one the moment it gets uncomfortable, and they call it bad timing. But timing isn't the problem. Softness is. Discipline isn't about motivation. It's about war. The war between who you are and who you're becoming. The moment the pain hits, the burn in your lungs, the ache in your chest, the silence after cutting off someone toxic, that is the battlefield. That's when you either crawl back to what's easy or claw your way into the version of yourself that refuses to be weak anymore. Seneca didn't preach comfort. He walked through fire. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. Read that again. Let it cut through your soul. You've had moments where you wanted to change. But the moment pain crept in, you made friends with mediocrity again. You convinced yourself that you'd start over next week, that you'd fix your diet after the holidays, that you'd cut her off when it feels right. And now, you're sitting on a throne of broken promises, ruling over a kingdom of regret. But there's a different fire burning in you now, isn't there? You've stared at your own reflection, ashamed of how many times you said, "I'm done," only to crawl back, tail between your legs. You felt that sick twist in your gut when you let yourself down. And now you're out for blood. Not anyone else's. Your own weakness. That voice that told you to give up when it got uncomfortable. That part of you that always quit when it got ugly. That soft, lying, cowardly version of you that's kept you small. Discipline doesn't feel like fire at first. It feels like crawling through mud while the world laughs. It feels like waking up at 5 a.m. when your body screams for more sleep. It feels like eating alone because you cut off the wrong people. It feels like sacrifice, raw, relentless, unglamorous sacrifice. But every time you don't break, every time you choose the hard road, your spirit sharpens. You stop needing applause. You stop chasing validation. You look yourself in the eye, and this time there's no shame, no doubt, just a quiet, unshakable power. I didn't fold. I didn't break. I am no longer weak. And that's how it begins. Not in books, not in plans, but in the storm, when it's cold, lonely, and no one's watching. That's where the disciplined man is forged. Number 2. Discipline is doing it when no one applauds. There's something haunting about silence. No claps, no validation. Just you, your choices, and the echo of your own doubts. That's where most people break. In the absence of applause, in that invisible zone where the cameras are off, where the sweat doesn't get recorded, where the transformation isn't shared but suffered through. Because it's easy to flex your grind when people are watching. It's easy to be disciplined when the world claps for every push-up, every milestone, every polished progress photo. But discipline, real, raw, bone-deep discipline, lives in the shadows. In the quiet suffering no one celebrates. Most people are junkies for attention. They're not after self-mastery. They're chasing digital dopamine. One missed like, and they question their whole purpose. They want to grow, but only if growth is pretty, shareable, and appreciated. That's not discipline. That's ego dressed in gym clothes. Discipline doesn't beg to be seen. It doesn't throw tantrums when no one notices. It doesn't care if the world's watching, because it's too focused on becoming unrecognizable. The man who trains without applause is the man who trains for war, not performance. You wake up before the sun and nobody cares. You kill your old habits while the world keeps partying. You say no to the toxic girl, the easy dopamine, the soft escape, and no one congratulates you. In fact, they laugh. They say you've changed. And they're right. You're becoming dangerous, silent, controlled, and untouchable. You're stepping into the rarest territory, where your actions no longer need an audience, where you bleed in private, so one day you rule in public. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." But being one doesn't come with a standing ovation. It comes with nights where you stare at the ceiling, wondering if all this sacrifice is worth it. It comes with isolation, with missed parties, with cold meals, with aching bones. It comes with doing the work anyway, not for praise, but for peace. The kind of peace that roars inside your chest when you know you didn't fold. When you know you didn't chase noise, you chose legacy, because results don't show up instantly. Progress isn't a parade, it's a prison, one you build with your own hands. But inside that prison, brick by brick, you become the version of yourself who no longer needs permission to rise. You become immune to applause. You become immune to doubt. You keep grinding in the dark, and one day, when the world finally looks, it won't even recognize you. But you'll know. You'll remember the silence. You'll remember the mornings that nearly broke you. You'll remember the pain, and you'll smile, not because they finally noticed, but because you didn't need them to. This is the power of discipline with no witnesses, the kind that doesn't ask to be seen, the kind that demands you earn your worth in the dark, so when the spotlight hits, you don't flinch, you conquer. Number 3, discipline is saying no to what you crave. Temptation doesn't crash through your door like a villain. It seeps in like smoke, silent, seductive, almost innocent. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It waits until your mind is tired, your spirit cracked, and your guard is lowered. It slithers in when you're starving for meaning, for warmth, for something, anything, to numb the dull ache of emptiness. It shows up as an old message, a cheap thrill, a late-night craving disguised as self-care. And just like that, you fall. Not because you're weak, but because you stopped being aware. And that single slip drags you back into the hell you swore you'd never crawl through again. Discipline is the opposite of seduction. It doesn't promise quick pleasure. It doesn't stroke your ego. It doesn't tell you what you want to hear. Discipline is brutal. It's the voice that screams no when every cell in your body is begging for relief. It's the invisible shield that keeps your future intact while your present self trembles with desire. It's not just about waking up early or working hard. Anyone can do that for a week. Discipline is built in the trenches of refusal, in the lonely, agonizing moments where you walk away from what you crave, not because you hate it, but because you finally love yourself more. The Stoics called it apatheia, the ability to remain unmoved by impulses. But don't mistake that for dullness. That's not numbness, that's power. It's the raw strength to feel temptation crawl through your veins and still not flinch. Cleanthes said, "Lead me, Zeus, and you, fate, wherever you have assigned me. I'll follow without hesitation, but even if I resist, I'll follow anyway." That's not surrender. That's spiritual muscle. That's saying, even if I break down inside, I won't break my code. I'll walk through the fire and keep my damn promise. Think of all the times you betrayed yourself, with a yes you didn't mean. Yes to that call. Yes to the laziness. Yes to the shortcuts. Every yes to impulse stole a piece of you. And afterward, the pleasure vanished. The dopamine faded, and all you were left with was shame. You looked in the mirror and saw the same tired coward making the same tired choices. Again. And that version of you, that soft, spineless version, is still waiting for the next craving to pull you back into mediocrity. But you're done with that. You're done being ruled by appetites. Every time you say no when it hurts, you take your life back. You reclaim your dignity. You prove that you're not a slave to your own hunger. That no might cost you comfort now, but it saves your soul later. It protects your momentum, your identity, your future. And every time you repeat it, even through gritted teeth and clenched fists, your inner warlord wakes up, stronger, sharper, more controlled. You want to rise? You want to dominate your world? Then you need to starve the part of you that keeps asking for poison and calling it pleasure. You need to become dangerous in your restraint. You need to be the kind of person who can walk past their desires and not blink, because what you're building is bigger than what you're craving. That's not discipline anymore. That's self-mastery. That's the rarest kind of power on this earth. And once it's yours, no one can take it away. Number 4. Discipline is keeping promises you made alone. No cameras, no crowd, no applause. Just you, laying there in the dark, angry at what you've become, sick of the games, numb from all the self-betrayal, your heart pounding with shame, your fists clenched with regret. That's when it happens, that moment, when you swear to yourself, never again. You promise to wake up early, to stop calling people who drain your soul, to hit the gym, to stop scrolling, stop lying, stop breaking yourself for comfort. It's a quiet war cry. No one hears it but you. But that promise, that one right there, that was sacred. And yet, the morning comes, and you hit snooze. You lie to yourself again. You go back on that vow, because no one saw it. No one would know. No one would call you out. But here's the haunting part. You knew. You saw it. And with every promise you break in silence, a part of you dies. A part of you that believed you could change. You don't just lose progress. You lose trust in your own soul. And that damage, it doesn't show on the outside. It festers in the mirror. The truth is this: discipline is not forged in public. It's carved in silence, in those dark hours where the only witness is your shadow. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Musonius Rufus didn't teach self-control as a performance. He taught it as proof. Proof that when temptation whispers and the lights are off, your character stands tall. No spotlight, no audience, just your principles, bleeding but unshaken. That's where real power begins, in solitude, in secrecy, in self-reckoning. How many times have you buried your potential under broken midnight promises? How many versions of you have died because you kept choosing weakness over redemption? You wake up with heavy eyes and avoid the mirror, not because you're tired, but because you're ashamed, because the person looking back doesn't match the one you swore to become. But discipline, it brings that man back. It resurrects the version of you that kept getting buried under excuses and half-hearted effort, not with motivation, not with hype, but with raw, cold, silent execution. Every time you honor that invisible promise, even in something small, you begin to rebuild. You stop needing others to believe in you because you start believing again. That's when things shift. That's when people start noticing that something's different. They just can't explain it. They see your eyes locked in, your pace sharper, your presence heavy. They don't realize you're walking with ghosts. The ghosts of every broken promise you've finally made peace with. You want to change your life? Then stop talking, stop posting, stop promising the world, and start keeping the ones you made in the dark, the ones no one claps for. That's discipline. That's sacred. That's the quiet force that rebuilds your identity brick by brick, promise by promise. And while the world stays drunk on noise and novelty, you'll rise in silence, a storm in human form. Because the ones who keep their promises in private eventually become unbreakable in public. Number 5. Discipline is enduring, boredom without breaking. Everyone talks about the hustle, the fire, the hunger, but no one warns you about this part, the dead zone, the stretch where the world goes quiet, where progress is invisible, where you wake up, do everything right, and still feel like you're going nowhere. The workouts blur together. The journaling feels empty. The grind becomes a loop. No praise, no results, just silence. And it's in that silence where most people bleed out, not from failure, but from boredom. Because boredom isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It whispers, slowly, repeatedly. It tells you this isn't working. It says, you're wasting your time. And you start to listen, not because you're weak, but because you're human, because your dopamine-hungry mind wants excitement, chaos, noise, and instead it gets stillness, repetition, monotony. That's the real killer, not failure, not pain, boredom, but discipline, real discipline. It doesn't flinch in that stillness. It doesn't beg for fireworks. It doesn't chase applause. It locks in. It tightens its grip. It keeps swinging even when nothing hits. It stares into that void of nothingness and doesn't blink. You show up again and again and again. Not because something new is happening, but because you said you would. That's where beasts are built. That's where giants rise, in the lull between the noise, in the silence most people fear. The Stoic Epictetus didn't glamorize greatness. He knew it was crafted slowly, painfully, invisibly. No great thing is created suddenly, he said, and he meant it. What he didn't say, but lived, is that greatness is born in the repetition that nobody respects. It's in the early morning cold when the alarm rings and no one's watching. It's in the 37th journal entry where your thoughts feel dry and pointless. It's in the 200th rep when you want to scream, "For what?" And the answer, "Because I said I would." This is the test. The battlefield with no glory, no fire, just grey skies and tired bones. The boredom war. The place where discipline either dies or becomes unshakable. And most will fold here. Most will break here. Most will chase novelty and noise and never know what it means to stay. But you, if you can endure this hellish silence without breaking, you unlock something terrifyingly powerful. You become the one who thrives in stillness, who finds fuel in nothing, who doesn't need excitement to stay consistent. That's when you're no longer chasing greatness. You are greatness. So when the silence comes, don't run, don't question, don't flinch, stand still, hold your line, Stay relentless. Stay faithful to your path, even when the path disappears beneath your feet. Because boredom isn't the barrier, it's the door. And most never make it through. Let this scream through your soul. I stay strong in the silence. Write it, live it, be it. Discipline isn't a glossy poster. It's not some highlight reel crafted for likes and shares. It's not the filtered version you scroll past, pretending it's easy. No, discipline is a relentless, merciless war waged inside your own mind. A brutal battlefield where your strongest enemy wears your own face. It's fought in the trenches of hunger, thirst, boredom, loneliness, and raw, trembling fear. Every single damn day, you stare down that voice in your head that screams, "Give up. Stop." And every time you refuse, every time you rise from the ashes of your weakness, you take back what's been stolen from you. Your power, your identity, your soul. You reclaim yourself. This fight never makes headlines. It doesn't come with applause. It comes in the dead of night when the world sleeps and only your demons are awake. It's in the silent promises you keep when no one else sees. It's the cold sweat, the aching muscles, the exhausted mind saying, "I'm done," but your spirit howling, "Not yet." That's discipline, the most savage, unrelenting force you'll ever summon inside your chest. It's the quiet victory that changes everything because it's forged in the fires no one talks about. So if this message hit a nerve deep inside you, if it lit a fire you thought had died, don't let it burn out. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Because somewhere out there, someone is fighting the same war in silence, drowning in the same doubts, craving the same strength. Your words, your energy, your fire might be the one thing that drags them out of their darkness. We are warriors in the shadows, unseen, unheard, but never defeated. Keep fighting, keep rising, and watch how the world has no choice but to bow to the storm you become.